When opened to include same-sex couples, marriage loses any meaningful definition. The reason is the arguments used by some same-sex couples must be applied equally to couples that are involved in incest, pedophilia, or bestiality, and so on. Let me give you an example. The law in your state says that you have to be over 21 years old to legally purchase and drink alcohol. Now suppose you want to change that law. You use some very rational arguments. You could say the age of 21 is just as is just a social construct. You could argue that you're just as responsible, if not more, than some 21-year-olds that you know. You could point out that people under the age of 21 get alcohol anyway, so you might as well make it legal. Now, while these arguments may be true, they're not good arguments for lowering the drinking age from 21 to 20. You see, it's not that you want to remove a minimum age. You just want to change it. You still believe there must be a minimum age. But the 20-year-old wants the minimum age to be 19. He uses the same arguments. He says the minimum age of 20 is a social construct. He insists that he's just as responsible, or maybe more, than a lot of 20-year-olds that he knows. You might as well legalize it. They're going to get it anyway. My point is, no matter where the line is drawn, there will always be those below the line that argue it's just an arbitrary number. They're just as responsible, and people are going to get alcohol anyway. Now, how does this apply to homosexuality? Picture in your mind for a second a fence. The fence divides marriage from all other human relationships. It's unique. Marriage, by definition, is between a man and a woman, and it is procreative. Homosexual advocates want to move the fence a little further back to include same-sex couples. They justify it by using four basic arguments. Number one, it shouldn't matter who you love. Number two, it doesn't hurt anyone. Number three, marriage between a man and a woman is just a social construct, in other words, an invention of society. And number four, some societies in the past have allowed it. You see, when a culture decides to move the fence with regards to the minimum drinking age or same-sex couples in marriage, they realize that they can't put the fence back up at all. In other words, there can't be a fence. Because you see, the arguments used by same-sex couples must be equally applied to couples that are involved in incest, sexual relations with a parent or sibling, pedophilia, sexual relations with a child, or bestiality, sexual intercourse with an animal, and so on. There's no longer a real and objective meaning to marriage. You see, marriage is a union between two very different but compatible people, a man and a woman. And it is procreative. Two men or two women cannot procreate. They certainly have a right to have a relationship and live together if they want. But that's not what marriage is. The nature of marriage is male, female, and is procreative. You see, a thing cannot have two fundamental natures. A circle can't be a square, or a square a circle. A golf club can't be a baseball bat. A dog can't be a cat. A thing cannot be two things at once. The nature of marriage is male, female, and procreation. By its very nature, a same-sex couple cannot procreate. Let me close by saying, far too many Christians now define marriage according to the legal standards of the nation they live. In other words, A lot of people assume that the government has the right to define marriage. As believers, we must not accept the idea that the nature of marriage is ultimately in the hands of government. A government doesn't create marriage. It recognizes it. A government doesn't establish marriage. It respects it. Don't assume that marriage is whatever any government or system of laws says it is. While the law may redefine marriage in a legal sense, Christians must continue to affirm that marriage in the eyes of God remains the union of a man and woman.